Welcome to today's South-South program. I'm Bill Miller. One of the main goals of South-South News is to focus attention on some of the unique and innovative economic, social, and developmental activities that are taking place, especially in economically developing countries. My guest today is someone who's going to focus attention on a large area of the world, but a very important area of the world, and that is Africa. So often when we hear of Africa, we hear a lot of the negative things that are going on, but there are a lot of positive things that are taking place. My guest today is Mr. Patrick Hayford. Mr. Hayford is the Director of the Office of the Special Advisor on Africa at the United Nations headquarters in New York. Mr. Hayford, a Ghanaian national, previously served in Ghana's Foreign Service, and he had postings in New York, Egypt, the United Kingdom, and South Africa. Mr. Patrick Hayford, welcome to South-South News.
Well, thank you very much indeed for having me.
I appreciate you being with me today. Let's talk a little bit about Africa. Well, first off, let's talk about your office. Special Advisor on Africa. What do you do? Very briefly, what is your role at the United Nations?
Well, again, thank you for having me here. The Office of the Special Advisor is the only Africa-specific office in the Secretariat. It was set up very much at the request of the African countries to provide a focal point for all the, the development and report work of the UN. And basically, one of our roles is to sort of help pull together all the strands of UN support for Africa's own blueprint for development called NEPAD. It's also supposed to be an office that brings together the peace and security agenda and the development agenda relating to Africa. And it's supposed to also support the entire range of work of the UN on Africa-related issues. It was set up a few years ago. It's headed by an Under-Secretary General, Mr. Diarra, and he sits in all the Secretary General's key meetings. So he provides advice to the Secretary General on Africa.
You have a very comprehensive area of the world to cover, and you have a very comprehensive office. And of course, Africa is, as I recall, the second largest continent,
exactly,
with the second largest population in the world, only behind Asia. Let's talk about one country in particular. I mentioned that there are a lot of good things going on in Africa. Sierra Leone, if we think back just a few years, there were many, many problems. There was a civil war raging, but Sierra Leone apparently is a country that's moving forward. The UN helped stabilize it with UN peacekeepers, but what is happening in Sierra Leone today that's moving the country forward?
Well, thank you. Sierra Leone is a good example of the positive stories from Africa that you don't hear much about. Here's a country which, as you said, was in the midst of civil war a decade ago. Today, it's a relatively stable multi-party democracy. Not only that, but power has shifted from one ruling party to the other side of the political divide peacefully. It is meeting the challenges of building up its economy, building up its institutions, its police, its other institutions of state steadily. It's playing an important and significant role in stabilizing the whole of West Africa. So it's a very good example of a country which has made remarkable progress. But again, because there are no news stories of violence and mayhem, you hear very little about it. But again, it's a very good example. I could cite several others: Liberia, I could cite Malawi, I could cite Mozambique, I could cite Namibia, I could cite several other countries in Africa.
Speaking of Malawi, we could talk about all those countries, but Malawi rang a bell. What is Malawi doing to become to develop food security? Not too many years ago, it was dependent upon outside food help, food coming into the country. What's happening there?
Well, again, Malawi is an interesting example. Here is a country which was a major food deficit country. Now it's a major food surplus country. It's produced so much grain that it's become a major exporter. And it's, I think, helping the World Food Programme to supply maize and other grains to a number of other African countries. It's been an exemplary country in terms of the MDGs. We have made great progress in terms of Millennium Villages, where an attempt is made to pull together all the elements of the MDG agenda in one small location and give it a kind of big push. So Malawi is, again, an interesting example. And the current president of Malawi is the current chairman of the African Union. Perhaps I could just say a quick word about the African Union.
Please.
It's extraordinary how African countries have managed to pull together an institutional framework which is in some sense unique. They have developed an architecture on peace and security. They have developed a sort of rules of the road for themselves, insisting on democratic political change, refusing to accept any changes of government which are unconstitutional. And you see, for example, in Cote d'Ivoire today, in the midst of the crisis, Africa is speaking with one voice, insisting on upholding the democratic principle. And it's a remarkable achievement on the continent.
You said the Millennium MDG, the Millennium Development Goals, and we think back to the year 2000, I think about 189 of the countries of the United Nations, almost all the UN member states came to New York. They adopted the 8 Millennium Development Goals. These were very logical, quantifiable, measurable goals over a 15-year period to reduce abject poverty by 50%, to make sure all primary school children got an education, to reverse the AIDS epidemic, to promote sustainable development. These are all laudable goals. Almost everybody in the world's in agreement with them. What are some of the things, you had mentioned a few things going on like in Malawi, are there some other highlights in some of the other African countries where there's some strides being made and perhaps could be served or could be used as best practices we could look at to see how are they making sure that their children attend school, or how are they reducing abject poverty by 50%?
Well, thank you. I mean, it's again, Africa is a big place, 53, 54 countries, 1 billion people, more than 50% of whom are under the age of 25. But again, in the midst of all the variety, there has been clear, substantial progress in terms of reducing poverty. Africa has had sustained economic growth of about 5% a year for a number of years. Of course, it went down in the recent economic crisis globally, but there's been a strong recovery. There are a number of African countries where primary school enrollment has significantly improved, especially girls. There are a number of African countries where levels of malnutrition have been cut drastically. Where there has been less progress, frankly, is in maternal health, but even there are some places where there's significant progress. There is significant progress in regional integration. East African community, Tanzania, Uganda, Kenya, now Rwanda and Burundi, they're coming together to form an economic community. There's been tremendous progress in ICT. In the late 1990s, only about 3-4 million people in Africa had access to cell phones. Now the number is well over 400 million. Africa is the most rapidly growing region in terms of use of cell phone, and internet penetration has also improved significantly. So across the board, there's been tremendous progress on a number of the MDGs. That is not to deny that there's a long way to go, and there are some areas where progress has been rather disappointing. But if you look at the big picture, there's been tremendous progress.
What are some of the other UN agencies involved in working with African leaders to help achieve the Millennium Development Goals?
Well, I would, for example, highlight the work of UNICEF in taking the United Nations Children's Fund, in helping, with the vaccination and inoculation of children, in promoting primary health care all over the continent. I would highlight the work of UNFPA, the United Nations Fund for Population Activities, in helping women have access to basic care so that they can improve their health. I would highlight the work of the FAO and WFP, the Food and Agriculture Organization and the World Food Programme, in helping Africa implement its own blueprint called the Comprehensive African Agricultural Development Programme, which is meant to help improve agriculture in Africa. So the UN is engaged in a broad range of areas, not to speak of UN peacekeeping, which is helping to resolve conflict in the DRC, in, Liberia is now at peace, and in Sudan.